Hey, how's it going? My name is Ben, and today we're going to talk about intervals on the guitar. And then, given this knowledge, we are going to go over the first scale to know, which is the major scale. So, first, couple things about the guitar. In standard tuning, the notes of the strings are going from the thickest to the thinnest are E, A, D, G, B, and E. And if you notice, the top string and the bottom string are both E, so they are the same. They are just one octave apart, so they're higher, lower. And each fretboard, so each little line on the fretboard is a semitone distance apart. And basically, a semitone is just a half step. So a full step from the first E would be to F sharp. That is a full step. A half step from the F sharp would be to G. Half step from G, G sharp. Half step from G sharp to A. So the intervals between the open strings, between the strings of the guitar, from the E to the A, that is a fourth. From the A to the D, that is a fourth. From the D to the G, that is a fourth. From the G to the B, that is a third, so it's different. And then the B to the E, that is all fourth. So just to reiterate, they are fourths. The way the guitar is stringed, they are fourths intervals, the distance between the strings, except for the last three strings. The fourth and fifth string, the G and B string, is a third, not a fourth. And how you can kind of lay this out on one string, so let's take the E string, the top E string for example, is we are going to go a whole step from E, so that's E, F, F sharp, a whole step from F sharp, so F sharp, G, G sharp, and then a half step from G sharp to A, and that is a fourth. And so that is the same as right here, just hitting the top two strings. So a good practice tip would, on just fretboard understanding, would be to try to memorize certain little pockets of islands on the guitar of familiar notes. So let's say you know the E, and you can basically walk the entire fretboard. So E, F, F sharp, G, etc., etc., etc. 12 frets up, and that's also an E. And you know that the A string is a fourth from the E. So this A on the 12th fret of the second string, you can walk it down to an E. So A, G, F, E. So these are the same notes. And you can continue this on the guitar to find familiar notes. So you have an E right here, 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 and you have an E right here. So you can do that all over the guitar on notes, just understand where notes are. And given this practice, it may take a little bit of a second to find out where these things are. But once you kind of have it mapped out to a certain degree, you're able to create what are known as scales. And a scale is basically a collection of notes with similar sound qualities. So if you think of it in a language instance, we are speaking English right now, so it's you understand what I'm saying. In the same way, a musical scale is a collection of notes with similar sound qualities. So the first scale to know is the major scale. It's kind of the root of most music, of all Western music. And to come up with this scale, there's a formula to find the notes within this scale. And this formula, it's easier to write down if possible, but this formula, let's start with the E major scale, for instance. So we're going to start with the open E, and we're going to go a whole tone. So E, F, F sharp. We're going to go a whole tone from F sharp to G sharp. So that's the third note of the scale. And then we're going to go to the fourth, which is A. That's the fourth note of the scale. Or if remember back to the intervals discussion, it's the first two strings. That is also a fourth. But if you list out in the E major scale, it is E, F sharp, G sharp, A. So that's your fourth. From the fourth note, it's a whole tone to the fifth note of the scale. It is a whole tone to the sixth note of the scale, or C sharp. It's a whole tone to the seventh note of the scale, or D sharp, and then back to the root, which is your E on the 12th fret. And from here, from the 12th fret, it just repeats. So it's the same collection of notes beginning on the 12th fret. So if we go back to the fourth note of the scale, or the A, from here, we can do a couple things on positioning on the guitar. So let's switch scales just for a second, and we're gonna go to the A major scale, just because it's a little easier to see from the 5th fret. So the notes of the A major scale would be A, the second note of the scale would be B, the third would be C sharp, the fourth would be D, or remember, the first string and the second string. So if you see, also, and then it's a whole tone from the 4th to the 5th to your E, a whole tone from the 5th to the 6th, a whole tone from the 6th to the 7th, half tone from the 7th back to the start, that A right here. So, but we can also be more efficient with how we do a scale. Or we could play more strings, more color, more variety, different octaves, different things like that. So to get these different sounds, let's start on A. And remember, it's a whole step to the second note of the scale. It's a whole step to the third note of the scale. And then it's a half step to the fourth note of the scale. But if we remember the intervals of the open tuning, you go A to D, which is a fourth, right? But if you remember, it is a half step between your third note and your fourth note of the scale. So if this is the fourth note of the scale, your third note is right here on the fourth, on the 4th fret of the second string. So your new positioning for this scale would be 5th fret, first string, 6th fret, first string, 4th fret, second string, 5th fret, second string, 6th fret, second string, 7th fret, second string, would be your fifth. And then your 9th fret would be your 6th note of the scale. And then your 11th fret would be your 7th note of the scale. And back to your root, which is that A right here. And as you remember, we are on the 12th fret, so this is just a repeat of the open string. So the new positioning for this scale would be, with my hands, now we can further the positioning even more using the intervals from the 2nd to the 3rd string, which is also a 4th, right? So we can go we're at the fifth note of the scale, right? And we can hop down here to the sixth note of the scale, seventh, back to your root. So this are the same as well as this, the open second string. So how did we get from here to here? Basically, this E, right, is also right here. So like I was saying before with the practicing on where notes are, it's very helpful. So if this is the fifth note of the scale, but it's also located down here, it is a whole tone from the fifth to the sixth, a whole tone from the sixth to the seventh, a half tone from the seventh back to the root. So I know that may be a little bit confusing, but the final pattern for this scale in this first position, starting at your fifth fret on the first string, is root, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, back to your root. And you can practice that over and over and over, up and down, up and down. And later, given this knowledge, we can use these collections of notes in the scale to build chords,